Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday meeting of the VOCC. On the agenda at 1:30 is Public Works. Susan, I did check through my email and saw that and signed it.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. It's just due midnight tomorrow, so I wanted to make sure we took care of it. So good afternoon, Susan Eugenis, Public Works. So the first item on our agenda is the ADA Accessible Transportation, excuse me, open house. So Public Works is required to do an ADA transition plan in order to continue our grant eligibility. It's a federal law. So I am working with PBS consultants to work up our draft transition plan. And as part of that, you need to do multiple public outreaches. So next Tuesday, March 5th, between 6 and 8, we're holding an open house at the Expo Center. So it's open to the public. The purpose of this is for us to inventory all of our sidewalks and ramps, which Public Works inspectors did on some of their downtime. Downtime meaning we don't have heavy construction going on. And we've imported into GIS. I'm working with PBS on the public outreach because that's not really a Public Works specialty, and planning which areas are going to be our highest priority. So I'm publicizing the open house. If sending them out, we have flyers. There's a flyer on the Public Works website, and it's out on our social media, out on our Facebook page for the public to see. Oh, and it's been on the paper, and I also heard it on the radio on one of the upcoming events.
How do you penetrate the Woodland area? We've got quite a few neighborhoods that are unincorporated.
So in our research, when the inspectors drove around, we only have 2 small sections of sidewalk, one near the Woodland High School. So right in that area, we have some sidewalk. And then off the end of Insull, we have so Insull goes city, county, city, county. So part of that has sidewalk, but nothing else that's unincorporated currently has sidewalk.
Isn't there something up in the Lexington area?
So yes, our main sidewalk areas are Lexington and West Longview. We also have sidewalk on Hall Road up in Tootle. We also, I can never remember. There's one neighborhood in Kalama that is in the unincorporated area that has sidewalks.
Spencer Creek.
No sidewalks there.
The portion with sidewalk is actually in the city. So this is, we're inventorying, and as new sidewalk is put in, that'll be part of the inspectors. When they inspect driveways and new sidewalks, they will add it to our inventory. So when we develop this plan, it'll be a living, breathing plan. We'll be working on accomplishing projects in areas where we have damaged sidewalk or ramps that do not meet current ADA standards.
A couple of years ago, we approved a subdivision out at Gassman and Chapman and Gassman Road.
Yes.
And is that one of the areas that?
That is one of the areas. That one is currently only about 30% built out. So we have not added that sidewalk to the inventory. Once we hit somewhere between 50 and 75%, we will add that to our inventory and then just fill in the gaps as they come in.
Along the West Side Highway, you're just talking about the development inside.
Yes.
So when they turn in there, that would be a sidewalk right there.
Yes, there's sidewalk in that neighborhood.
And no sidewalks in
I'm
Red-
I'm easily distracted because that gentleman over there put 2 pieces of paper that are labeled Plan B. So far, the text is the same, except some of the numbers aren't, and it's driving me crazy.
Thank you. I pointed that out too. So the one with highlights is
Okay, thank you.
is the
We'll,
current.
we'll get to it, right?
Yes.
I gave him a hard
I'll
time.
try to remain calm.
Code for interpretation to follow.
Yes.
He handed it out too early and distracted you.
I hate when they mess with the old folk.
Well, speaking of that, I was in Riderwood recently. Not a whole lot of sidewalks there,
Correct.
but a community that could use ADA accessible network.
Yes.
Is that up to them then to phone in if they want something? Or is that just something, if you want it, you're gonna have to pay for it? 'Cause we don't do their side streets.
We generally don't do side streets. That is something that they could come in for a road improvement district and approach it that direction or local improvement district and pay for it that way, and then it gets added towards your taxes.
Curiously, sidewalks in Riderwood would actually probably be not advisable based on my old man experience.
Stop trips.
Sidewalks are for tripping. And they don't have sidewalks, and so they don't trip.
A lot of them
In,
use,
in Longview, it's
golf
sidewalks
carts.
plus trees equals tripping,
yeah,
big time.
a lot of them out there in golf carts and too, and I think they just drive up.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was
Wherever they're
surprised.
at.
I only saw two.
Did you?
Yeah, it was,
Did you go around the block twice? They'll
Yeah,
start
yeah.
following you.
Yeah.
oh, they followed me, yeah. I
They're
said,
diligent.
Get this outsider out of here.
So along that vein, I've also reached out with this information to the Lexington School as a big community hub out in Lexington. And I requested from them their school walking route plan, because as part of our transportation transition plan, you're supposed to prioritize, and that to me would be a priority, a walking route to the school. And that is also one of the grants we look at. Now that we have a school, we're now eligible for Safe Routes to School again, and that has just opened up. So these are items that we're looking at.
So the COG just finished up an open house on this topic. I don't know if they have to follow the same kind of rules because they're handling all the grants. But did you get a chance to fold those findings into yours or
I have not, but I most certainly can request them and forward them along, that we can
check off another?
box
Mhm.
outreach.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So are we ready for my next exciting subject?
And
So
if you speak clearly
I'll do my best.
or clear zone or something like that.
Yes, it's my clear zone inventory agreement. So this is an unusual agreement, so I wanted to run it by you guys today to get a feel of if you wanted it motion or consent. Thank you. I'm forgetting words today. So the clear zone inventory, this is being paid for by Highway Safety Improvement Program grant. And what this is we have a consultant that has specialized equipment that will ride every mile of the county road and inventory everything along our shoulders to help us determine potential high-risk areas where we should help our guardrail selection and locations where we have things that we may need to have items removed. It's one of the rural emphasis is to more deaths occur on rural roadways than any other roadway. So more deaths occur on rural roadways than on interstates are the statistics. So that is the emphasis. And this is one of the projects that they feel is important, knowing what's out there. So this will drive up and down the road, inventory everything, we'll have pictures, and we'll be able to put it into our GIS system to work on improving roadside safety.
It seems a bit odd that that has to have a machine to do it. I would think that your senior employees already know where the obstructions are. They travel it all the time.
But
Or
this,
am I misunderstanding?
this gives you everything in photographic of everything up and down the miles of roads. It also inventories some of your curves, your signs, people's beautiful walls that are out there. And so you have a statistical database. It is 100% funded project.
Yeah, all from taxpayers, yes.
Yes,
So who gets to keep the data?
we do.
Who gets to access the data?
We do.
And the funders.
No,
For when you
we
go-
do not need to provide it to the funding agency.
Do you mean taxpayer funded? But is that,
No, when you apply for all those grants, doesn't that go into the package that
Oh.
says, here's why we need this safety grant?
So if we use it in the future to develop safety grants, yes, we would be using this data moving forward. But at the end of the grant, I do not have to give a work product to WashDOT that says, here is our data set. That is not a requirement of the grant. It is not going to be shared with other agencies, other state and federal agencies.
Then why do it?
To improve our knowledge base within Public Works.
Is that data available to anybody in the county? Anybody in the world? PRR request?
If you do a public records request, yes, it would be available.
But you're going to keep it a secret until you get a public
And-
records request.
I'm not going to put it out on the website or anything like that.
And we're paying 138,000 or something like that.
That sounds approximately right, yes.
Yeah, going back to what I think was been asked, I've been, I'm still struggling with this list. What, can you give me an example of how this will lower your costs by $138,000? Over what span of time?
Now you're making me think today. So I know other jurisdictions had done this and I didn't refresh my mind on this before it came. I apologize. I don't have all this
Okay.
information popping in my head. It is certainly, I can pull it up and say how people are using it and what the benefits are. I'd be more than happy to have all of that and the cost with the saving, what the information is used for and how it saves you in the future.
Okay, thank you. That, it isn't a done deal just yet, right?
No, this is contract execution.
Yeah.
So,
So if it doesn't pass on Tuesday, then it doesn't go forward.
correct. And then we will reach out to our funding partner and work on shutting down the agreement with them. So based on this conversation, my feeling is that this should be on the motion.
Well,
Or do you want
I-
us to
I
push it a
guess-
week?
I guess knowledge for knowledge's sake is wonderful, but that's not, that's not what we're here for. If this is a tool to make us qualify for more safety grants, yeah, I mean, this database, improves the data set that you give to the folks who fund the grants. That makes it kind of legitimate, but you just told us it's not going to be used for anything. It's just to make us
Well,
more knowledgeable, and it's kind of like,
all right, I
we
guess
need a
I
better,
should.
we need a better benefit out of
You,
it.
you need me to refine how I say things because I looked at it as, well, we're going to have this information. So when we're looking at projects, when people say intersection of Oak Point and Mill, which is in the intersection I know has issues, we will have all the data there and we can compare it to, let's say, the Abernathy Creek and Germany Creek intersection, or a curve on Whitewater Road versus a curve on Germany Creek Road. We'd have information on this is an issue because there's trees there, or we would have that information, but I can gather much more data. Do you want me to push this a week and bring it back to next Wednesday to discuss again? It's not a time crunch that if we don't do it next week, the world's going to end.
Yeah, there are a lot of intangibles as well as tangibles. I'm typically going to feel uncomfortable about what seems like an incessant pursuance of grant funding. And I tried to explain that a little yesterday on the Board of Health, and that it's not unlike, I didn't use this, but maybe I ought to have this, kind of like I have a house and I've got a leak in the roof and it's bad enough, it's coming down the walls. I can smell the mildew. I can see the MDF kind of buckling up and turning black. But I decide instead of fixing the roof, I'm going to remodel the kitchen. And I use that as an example because it's inescapable that we are in a debt crisis. And I know I keep harping on, but one of these days you're going to say, you know, that old geezer, we should have listened. And so in this case, I'm trying to figure out is it something useful? I also had the meme up there from Groucho Marx, politics is the art of looking for trouble, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedies. And so I look at an effort like this, and I'm into the data stuff, obviously, but I also know it gets used badly and improperly. Hence my question, who gets to access it? Anyhow.
Yeah, the cynic coming out in me, it's been my experience, they rarely give you money without expectations on the other end, and how long before they say, well, if you don't repair this thing, we're gonna withhold money, and I don't know. I'd like to know some other people who've been in it a while and that there's not mandates that follow this thing.
There's also a comment that mine's a terrible thing. The cost of housing with all the requirements and new requirements and the building codes, it's always justified for your safety. At some point, getting out of bed's unsafe. I hope we're not going to get constrained to stay in bed. And so here I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, it's pretty neat technology. I like it. But if I put my cynic's hat, which is more cynical than the chairman's, I get a little worried.
So Susan, I know that we have plenty of roads that are probably not as high a standard as we'd like.
Mhm.
And so it's always a matter of how do we prioritize the available monies that we have to apply to the road repairs. A never ending demand for safer roads. If this were a tool that would make a difference in being able to get more safer roads built or improved. Yeah, but I didn't hear that justification from you, and that's why I asked the cynical questions.
And that's fine, and because I obviously did not prepare myself well enough for this today, I am happy to move the item from next week's agenda to the following week's agenda and bring this back next Wednesday with a better explanation and the tools, talking to the engineer who's been running this project, because unfortunately, I don't remember everything that I've been told. So I can have a better explanation of how we're using
Particularly
this.
if there have been safety grants that we haven't gotten, even though we've asked for them. Because
Yes,
you don't have the documentation or whatever. I mean,
yes. So, and that I will work up that information for you guys happily.
That would help me anyway.
Yeah. No,
That would be appreciated, yeah.
yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Okay.
So,
I gotta say, I share some of Commissioner Morton's, our job isn't be safety monitors. I mean, people have to take at what point do people take responsibility? Hey, that curve's there. I don't drive that fast around that curve. Our job is to ensure liberty and freedoms, not to make sure everybody's got earplugs in when the sound gets too loud or that kind of thing. That just gets ludicrous in my mind. And usually at some point in time, it comes with some strings attached. So
The
I'm
other,
very cautious and cynic about that, sorry, but.
a classic example of that, I think, is on on, is on Tennant Way, where I used to ride the bicycle and I had a huge area to ride the bike and still not be in traffic. Then they put the bump outs, and God, first day I'm down trying to beat into the headwind and hitting that thing, and then traffic can't make a right turn on a red light and all that, but I'm sure that was grant money. And I'm sure that was spent not because somebody said they needed it, but because it was grant money. That's really what we should avoid.
Well, it was
May have
even-
nothing to
It was
do-
even more insidious than that. We required a bunch of money from Walmart when they built their superstore to improve traffic access on Tenant Way.
I,
That was a condition of approval that they had to kick in money to.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. For Tennant Way, the
Yeah.
bump outs?
Well, remember the superstore is just off of Ninth.
Oh, yeah, but the bump outs I thought were, I mean,
Yeah, it's all on Tenant Way. Oh, yeah.
but they've propagated throughout the city of Longview. When I tried to talk to Bozarth, who was the engineer at that time, I might as well have been talking to a brick wall. He had no idea why or how, or just that he did it. I could get going, but I'll try not to. I'm still stuck on this thing.
You'll let us know if the recommendations are to increase the bulb outs.
Yes, we'll add bulb outs everywhere, just,
That's just before the roundabouts go in.
yeah, so we'll put the bulb outs to slow down the bikers. Isn't that what they're for?
Stop.
Evidently.
The bulb outs are evidently to slow down the bikers.
I'm trying, I have the old hearing aid. I had him on yesterday. It seemed easier. I got the new ones to see whether, could you say it again slowly?
The bulb outs are to slow down the bikers.
Probably. It's also to hold the trucks back. I mean, even, Kalama River Road has a traffic circle now, just directly east of the freeway. Traffic circles are not a bad thing, but the old orthogonal intersections require much less area than a roundabout.
Right.
But we don't want to give up that area. So now if you're a low boy and you want to go north on 99, you've got to go to the traffic circle, have a flagger go over there on the other side, stop traffic, and then go to the left, not the right, because you can't make it all the way around, and cut through. And to design stuff in there in this modern day and age, I would have to call somebody an imbecile.
Although the public has remedied that based on the skid marks, they just go right through.
Yeah.
They ignore it because it's not that high, right?
Yeah.
Except they can't still make that left,
Yeah.
that hard
Oh.
left.
I've seen plenty of people make that left. Going around the roundabout the wrong way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and then we don't know how to we citizen drivers typically don't know how to handle a circle, roundabout. And I'm just waiting I'm going around legally. I'm supposed to be at about 15 miles an hour. There's probably a young man behind me who says, "Who's this old fart here?" And I'm going right up the middle, and we're going to meet at the other side.
Yeah.
It's just an invitation for trouble. Now, that's a safety kind of thing I could get behind.
You want to fire a community meeting, bring up roundabout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I will ask, why am I blanking? Kelly to move that back to the agenda of the 12th, and I'll bring more information and be better prepared to discuss it with you guys next week. All right, so private road update, kind of wanted to give you an update of where I am in my schedule. So I have started working on the update. My plan is to bring to the board on our March 20th meeting, so our normal 1:30, my large concept potential changes that I want to make to get board direction on, yes, that sounds good. No, that doesn't sound good, and explain some of my reasoning before I put a finalized draft out there. And then hopefully after that meeting, bring it back to a formal draft back to the board on the 17th of April. So that is the schedule I'm looking at, because I have some, we've had requests on, we want different standards for different numbers of houses on some of the lowers, and standardizing the expectations. I have a few things based on the reviews, things that we frequently see and are asked about to try and clarify through there. And so some of those items, before I make what could be large changes, I want to bring them to you guys for your direction.
So at what point does it get referred to the Building and Planning Advisory Committee?
So after we do the big concepts that I can get you guys behind, and I was planning on bringing the draft to you on the 17th, the Building and Planning Advisory Commission is the next day on the 18th. And so roll it out to you guys, and unless you saw something glaring in it on the 17th, I would take it to them on the 18th. So April.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And then I just had a brief, wanted to kind of let you guys know, we're having a lot of rain.
Yeah.
We're expecting over 2 inches in the next from this morning through the end of tomorrow. And the snow levels anticipated to drop this weekend down as low as 300. So we have been out running our culverts and our ditches and making sure we're ready for the heavier rains. And then we're just going to watch the weather and see when we need to bring crews in, if we need to bring crews in. I'm hopeful that it'll be like the snow I had Monday morning. It looked beautiful in the grass and then the trees, but I live up over 1,000 feet and there was nothing on the roadways. So we're hoping
The
that,
end of a really long private road too.
yes, I do live on a private road. I'm over a mile back on a private road. So
She has a lot of anecdotal evidence
on
about
private
private roads.
roads.
Question on that flooding kind of thing. Did you get informed as to what city of Kalama is doing? Because a few years ago, they were flooded, the post office flooded. It was a rather nasty mess.
When they do start having issues, they do reach out to us. So I know they have made some revisions to try and avoid that, but
I've heard bad things. I mean, an engineer knows it doesn't work until you test it. So if I'm counting on those pumps, I'm testing it no less frequently than every quarter.
I'll tell you an anecdotal story about someone who didn't test their pumps. Back when I was a consultant, I was modeling a fire suppression system and they pulled their water from the river. So I went out to do a site visit and calibrate my model. And they turned the pumps on and all we got was black ooze because they hadn't tested their pumps in several years. And I was like, well, you guys need to go out and dredge that. So yes, they do need to test their pumps. I do not know what they're doing with respect to that.
Well, and if memory serves me correct, the last time there was significant flooding in Lexington, it was a pump problem that hadn't been either maintained or was undersized or what as development occurred. But it has to be adjusted with the
Yes.
runoff. But I suppose with the other environmental rules where you have to have so many empty holes for stormwater to collect, you can get it overwhelmed, even though you're behind the levees.
Mhm.
Do you want to talk about miscellaneous public works or you want to do that? Up to you.
I'll do it either way. We can do it at the end.
Okay.
Let somebody else talk for a while.
Okay. All right. So we do have some miscellaneous items at the end, but we'll go ahead and capture those after facilities. So what Commissioner Mortensen
can I-
was referencing is 2 documents. They both say Plan B. One has highlights, which is actually the revision. And I had to write, because he also gave me the same document in pink writing, I had to write which one was revised. So the revised one is it with highlights. And what this is we had come to the board in the fall around budget time with a proposal, which is the Plan B with no highlights. With recent information we've gathered on the conditions of our roof locations at 2 major locations, is that correct? We've made some revisions to this 5-year plan. So I'm going to go ahead and let Sean discuss a high level, low level, however you guys want to discuss it, kind of what that means for our facilities budget.
Good morning, Commissioner. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Sean Rowe, Public Works. Sorry to hand this out early and distract y'all. So we did have a roof inspection done on the jail facility and our annex building. The results of those inspections were that we expect another 3 to 4 years of life out of the jail facility roof. So we changed our plan. We would hope to push that back the 3-year period and move forward the annex building, which roof is deteriorating more than expected, and push that into 2024.
So Sean, I'm just a little bit confused. I thought it was 2 or 3 years ago that we did a major roof repair on the jail. Was that section A?
That is section A, yeah.
So you're talking about the next sections. the-
Sections B
And
and
they're
C.
smaller,
Yes, sir.
right? Okay, thanks.
And so we just want to bring that to the board, and answer any questions about it. Want to use the dollars we have effectively and get the life out of the roofs we can.
But the annex roof is in more dire shape.
It is.
It needs to be next, huh?
Yeah. Will Tossett, Facility Service Manager. Yes, annex and admin, both you can see the threads coming through. Both roofs are end of life, which if we can get 3 to 4 years out of the jail, I'd rather fix the worst roofs before we do the jail. And I think that's why we want to move these numbers.
Yeah, we're not looking at any cost differences. We're just took a look at the quality and
Mhm.
saw that we have a little more life than we expected, so we're moving stuff around, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
I'm okay with the changes.
Yeah, I'm good with those.
Thank you.
I'm still trying to remodel the kitchen.
You and me both.
Before I let you guys leave, I have I was gonna do it on Monday and I wasn't here. I want to have a little bit of discussion on the landfill because I keep hearing things on this thing. I think I'll start with the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. I saw Doug sent us out a copy of Solid Waste Advisory Committee, the bylaws, and then also the interlocal agreement that was done in 2007.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming these are both in place, although what's happened since 2007 is we actually purchased the landfill, right?
That's correct. Yes.
So, but this interlocal agreement stays in place. What happened to the ELF funds? They estimated there was 10 million in there.
So historically, the ELF fund was used as, and feel free to jump in, Sean, a fund that entities could borrow against to fund most often capital purchases. Is that correct? Go ahead.
Yeah, so the L fund is a reserve fund for equipment, land, and facilities, hence the name of it. When we closed or planned to close Tenant Way back in the 2004 period, we signed a contract with Waste Control at the time in 2006 to transport and rail all of our waste out of Cowlitz County to Eastern Washington. The interlocal agreement was signed in 2007. After that period of time, the landfill sale became available. I think that was 2009, 2010 period. And we signed a new contract with Waste Control at that period to haul the waste from the transfer station to the landfill, just to give a little history there. And so this ILA has remained in effect since that period of time. And to talk about the dollars, they were used to build out the landfill.
Mhm.
Okay.
But
so
there's more to the story than that.
Sure.
It also was used to initially finance the jail. And it was borrowed. And so the governance committee was set up to get the cities involved because it was a city, county operation. And that,
Right.
of course, had to be paid back, but
Correct.
that governance committee was set up to allow that flexibility.
Yes, since that point in time, there was some policy changes. That fund is no longer used to loan monies. I believe that's a directive
Okay.
of State Auditor's Office. And there's no longer any debts maintained in that fund.
Okay, so they were all paid off out of that.
I believe the debts were transferred to the general fund.
Okay. So in our contract on the current landfill, who pays the debt on that?
Cowlitz County,
Cowlitz County itself.
yes,
Cities don't contribute.
no.
Who pays for the closing of the plant or the landfill when it does, which is a big process and big expense? Who's responsible for that?
Cowlitz County,
Cities don't contribute to that.
no.
No. Because I keep hearing this profit sharing, and I'm trying to understand why cities believe they should get money when they don't take any risk. I mean, that's like Bud Clary needs to send them money every month just because they're there. So I'm trying to understand that because I keep hearing this stuff and I watched, they called you guys over, so that got me interested in looking at that meeting. And I saw one of the council members, she actually got angry that they weren't getting the money, or in my opinion, it looked like they got angry. And then in the Wednesday we were talking about it, I hear, and I don't care about the comments, people can have their opinions, but I hear the comment, elections have consequences, ergo no profit sharing. I took that to mean because I was elected, nobody gets profit sharing. And I'm trying to figure out where this profit sharing came about in the first place. Was it in a public workshop? Was it backdoor? How did they even believe that they get money from us when they don't take any risk? I don't get it. I've seen contracts over 40 years and I've never seen that. So I'm trying to figure out how that started, why it's still even alive.
As a staff, during that time period when the commissioners were determining whether or not they were going to potentially lease the facility or keep the facility as an asset, I believe there were conversations, discussions about profit sharing. I wasn't involved in that. I don't know if Sean has additional context to provide.
I think you described it accurately.
Sorry, I don't have a better answer. I am aware that that was brought up. We were at, I can't recall if it was governance or SWAC. I think it was governance, where the cities brought that up as wanting the commissioners to consider this. To my knowledge, that wasn't approved. So
Okay.
So first, you're not being accurate when you say the cities don't pay any funds to the landfill.
no, they pay
They
funds.
collect the fees that we end up spending.
They
they're
pay
the
tipping
collection
fees and
agency,
transfer station fees.
Because when we raise the collection fees for the landfill treatment and all that stuff, we affect no customers. The cities pass that on to their customers. They are taking the political heat when the rates go up. Okay, so just that money doesn't come out of the general fund. It comes from the people who are paying their bills to waste control through the cities.
I will clarify my interpretation of the question, which was liability based. That was my interpretation of what Commissioner Dahl was asking us. Who,
Know who's liable for that.
It-
I mean, that's a contract. They don't have to sign a contract with us. They can find somebody else if they find it cheaper. That's a contract. To me, that's a separate issue. I'm just trying to get at who holds the liability for this thing and why somebody doesn't have any liability thinks they have a right to some of the.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So that is very true, right? When we were spending an awful lot of time with whether to go with Republic or some other private management firm for running the landfill, we again had hired Steve DiGiulio to make sure what we did was legal. And there was quite a bit of heat from our customers, both the industrial customers and the cities, almost unanimously, that they did not want the county to contract out the management. They said, all you're doing is giving it away. We had a meeting with Steve DiGiulio, who was surprised to hear about the governance committee because it is unique. The language of the governance committee says that the management of the landfill will be shared. That's why you have the government committee. that has city's representatives on it. He said, we have just been conducting 3 months worth of management discussions and we've stiffed them. They have not been involved. They're getting it back. He says, you need to make amends because that's part of the, we're violating our governance committee agreement. So I volunteered to meet with city leaders to see if we could reach a peace settlement. And the result was a number of agreements on what we would do. We would try to look for another route for delivering the waste to the landfill. Maybe using the idea was perhaps the abandoned railroad might be an alternate to get it off of public streets. Another one was a recommitment that the odor was definitely going to be controlled through, vigorous monitoring and checking it out. And we'd look at ways to do something with the methane because burning it all at 1,700 degrees per stack is irresponsible. And of course, as you know, we're in the midst of negotiating with the PUD to do that. Turns out that the tunnel that the railroad goes through eliminated that as a possibility for the trucks. So that went by the wayside. And I think we haven't had any complaints that I remember about odors being a problem. Every once in a while, there may be some gypsum that gets inadvertently put in, but that has not been a major problem. And then we talked about the fact that the cities did not want us to fill up the landfill. They said no more than 500,000. And so we had the discussion about the profit potential for charging outside customers a higher rate than we charge our own customers. But that would be a significant savings to those customers from what they're currently paying to go to Eastern Washington Outsiders. And that's when I suggested the concept of a profit sharing plan. And they were agreeable. They withdrew their support. When we talked about it, and mentioned it, Joe Gardner was a little nervous about whether we would actually make any money off of it. So he didn't support profit sharing right away. And then of course he resigned, and we had John Jabish come in, and then we never got back on track to authorizing it. To be honest, I believe Mr. Mortensen's been very consistent that they don't deserve any of it. So right now we're collecting it all and we're spending it all on county projects, much of which benefits cities. I mean, court system and, improving the jail and all those things are community-wide. We did get to a point where I met with several city leaders to talk about, well, what do you mean by profit sharing and how much should it be? And I had suggested all along that we use state law on the percentage that the counties get to share of the city's sales tax, which is only 15%. And I said, flip that around, let them take 15% of the $7 million in profits that we make. That was proposal. The meeting was left with the demand from Kelso that it be per capita basis, and that's where the discussion ended. So we haven't made any changes since then, and I think the city managers agree that they want to approve a rate increase until we revisit that profit sharing concept. So
Well, they can try.
hopefully that
That gives me some history. If they don't want to pay a rate increase and we think one's warranted, I guess they can try and contract someplace else.
So I don't think that answered your question. I was there pretty much through the whole thing, and some of it is fair representation, but a lot of it is just advertisement for things that are totally irrelevant. Even from the fundamental concept that the cities don't pay anything, and that was rebuffed. The argument is equivalent to I buy at Walmart, so therefore I got to get a piece of the profit of Walmart. That's obviously idiotic. The cities are customers. They may choose to be our customers, they may not. If they wanted to take their trash elsewhere this afternoon, I'd be happy to sign a contract that says you're out of it, we'll get waste from somewhere else. I think you would do the same. I think you would do the same. So they don't contribute anything. And at any point, I've never heard them offer anything like helping us pay the bonds off in case Mount St. Helens blows again, or in case something happens that invalidates the landfill and so forth. So totally specious there. These other agreements, well, the history behind those agreements is pretty damned ugly. And I'll go into one of the agreements. The bonds were issued. The landfill was purchased with the bond funds, and shortly after the licensing of or the permitting of the landfill, the board sent a letter to Foster Garvey, I think, still asking them what would be the consequences of selling the landfill. What would be the consequences on the bondholders of selling the landfill? It wasn't asked like that, which might be a very reasonable question. You should always find out. I have an asset, how much is it worth? But the way it was asked was, what would be the consequences if we sold the landfill for, and there was a fixed dollar amount to waste connections. You don't ask something if like that if it wasn't cooked in. So clearly something was cooked in. Dennis is correct. There was a discussion presented to us, and it was in an executive session, so you can't really go through it, but it's what kicked off, find out what the landfill is valued at. During that whole process, there was a lot of false start, this and that. All the agreements and things that Dennis talked about, I bet you there is not a signed document from anybody in the municipalities that says it's okay for you to let the ELF fund go and to restructure it like this. We use our lawyers with the intent of maximizing the benefit of the landfill for Cowlitz County, regardless of the municipalities. It's a business. And that's exactly how it transpired. Nobody, there's zero obligation to give anybody anything on this, particularly as the chairman has observed. You have nothing to do with it. You're just a customer.
Well, I appreciate being brought up to speed on, because I've heard these things, and from the point of it's in the contract to, what I heard over the council meeting. So I like being up to speed. And if we have any more talks, they should be right here in this room and open to the public. The other thing I wanted to bring up was the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. We got a letter from Longview telling us who they're going to appoint on that committee. I looked through this, and Solid Waste Advisory Committee appointment, members shall be appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. And I know I didn't sign for that appointment, and I won't sign for that appointment. I don't agree with the way she handles some things over there, and I don't think she needs to be on this board. So I don't know what the other two commissioners' feelings on this, but I can tell you right now, I don't support that appointment, and I would, and the fact that the city thinks they can just do that really kind of gripes me. And I'll probably call them on it and talk to them about that, because it's pretty clear right here. Members shall be appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. That's sitting right here, and that wasn't done.
So the very first request came from the person herself, and we passed on it. I joined you in saying no. And subsequent, we got this strange letter.
Yeah. So if it sounds like if you're still in an agreement, then,
I'm still with you on that.
then the city, that's not acceptable. And we will, I think we'll send a letter to do what we have to do. Tell them, go through the process, send us somebody we'll accept.
Now, that's not the governance committee, right?
No,
That's
governance
the- that's
committee
the
is different.
advisory committee, right?
Right.
And
Governance
we usually
committee-
have, on the guidelines, we have so many to represent cities and so many to represent industry and some at-large positions. if I
Yeah.
remember
It does, specify that it could come from the city, but we're the ones that picks the person from the city. They don't. Governance committee is different, correct?
Yeah.
So, sorry. I ran on that, but
So if we ask the question, who owns the government of Cowlitz County? Who is the government of Cowlitz County? Isn't that the residents who live here?
This reminds me of a constituent coming up there to the podium and saying, you represent me, I want you to do this. We represent 114,000 people, not just people in Longview.
That's certainly true. That is certainly true. But we act on behalf of all 112,000 people that live here. That's part of the representative nature of.
Right, right. And we do that as best as we can. Clearly, with 114,000, there are conflicts all over the place, but
But with all due respect, you made it sound as if the government is different from the people when you said, we don't have to share with anybody. And it's kind of like, we all share the same people. We represent everybody.
our,
And I think it's unfortunate, it's unnecessary to behave as if we are at war with the customers that supply us with the revenues that we use to make so much money with that. But that's, we can
I'm-
continue talking about that and, it's not gonna.
I'm not at war with anybody. I'll talk to any of them. I just like things above board and not behind the curtain. If they want to talk to us about it, come here and sit down. I'll go over there and talk to them. I don't care. But I don't like these behind the curtain things, and all of a sudden having people in my ear, well, it's in the contract. Well, no, it's not. Quit lying to me. Don't tell me stories.
when somebody comes up to me and they say, you owe me $100, I'm going to ask them how, why, show me that I owe you $100. And if they ask again after they're unable to show me, I probably do show some kind of irritation. But I have this irritation with a lot of the advisory boards in the county. We don't put people on there to grind an axe on their behalf. We are there, we want somebody to provide insight. Like the person from Longview and the person from Kelso should say, do you realize what you're doing about your trash is prejudicial to the cities it's causing us harm? That's very different than saying, by the way, we want a piece of the money for no responsibility. Those are two totally different things. To characterize them the same is really preposterous and a tremendous stretch.
Well, if the general fund of Cowlitz County is on the hook for paying the bonds, and they've not been so far, the citizens of all the cities and those living in the unincorporated areas are going to be on the hook for it. We're all on the hook for it together. So they are sharing the risk.
So by your argument, we ought to just turn the whole landfill over to whoever wants it. I mean, they're citizens, right? That's how things get destroyed. We operate the landfill. You ought to be very thankful that our Public Works Department has done an outstanding job in the landfill. I don't think you could ask for any better than that. Even at that, the fact that we didn't go with a contract on that exposes us to liability in a way that we could have gotten that liability off for free. And we'd still have the money. And there was a mention about other counties paying, making profit for us. The waste outside county is pretty substantial, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Without it, we probably have to do something rather drastic, right?
That's correct. You know, our transfer station fees are the lowest in Western Washington by a significant margin.
Okay. We're butting along 2:30 and I know we have a presentation, so I'll try and honor that, but appreciate your indulgence and your time as always.
Thank you. We will follow up with our other items, which we can do next Wednesday. Thank you.
I did want to just mention one totally unrelated topic before we go. And
Sure.
I have spent some time with Joseph at the museum, and they have a real significant problem with their back entrance. Needs a roll down gate like at the Hall of Justice. It won't work. It's just, it's not designed for that. But the drug paraphernalia greets them every day when they use that back entrance. And I'm just wondering how much longer they have to put up with that when all you have to do is just build the door out.
We actually just met about that at our last facilities meeting. Totally on par with what you're saying. We've talked about building out as far as a roll-up door goes, or we're actually securing bids, seeking bids
Okay.
for fencing systems. So more of a, what do we call them? Ornamental fencing like Expo has. So the black wrought iron, just to see the price comparison of building out and doing a door versus securing the whole parking area. So we're just looking at our options, but you're correct, and we're aware of that problem. We're working on that.
I think you were there too and saw it.
Yeah, I agree with Dennis Weber. They should not have to come out and clean up needles and feces and all that other nonsense. I mean, that's above and beyond.
A lot of our maintenance folks are out there too. So we recognize that it is a problem. So we're looking at solutions. We'll get you guys an update.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Okay. We can move in and gentlemen, I've actually been kind of looking forward to this, the Three Rivers wastewater, because I don't know exactly what the subject is today, but I know you have stuff in the works, so we're excited to hear about
It's about bond
that
issues,
going.
right?
Yeah.